We're looking for that league winner in the fantasy playoffs. We're rolling into week 16. We're looking at the waiver wire. We got some running backs who are jumping into the starting role. Kendre Miller hasn't received that role yet, but we're looking at Alvin Kamara now. He's injured. He's banged up. Might be out this week. We do not know. We're watching the practice reports. But we got to deep dive Kendre Miller right now because people are picking him up right now. And we got to see whether or not you need him for fantasy football. But before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now. We're doing these deep dives every single day on as many players as possible so you can get the advanced data, analytics on these players and their situation so you can make your decision on what you need to do. Click that button. Stop missing out. Ric Flair's watching. You do not want to disappoint him. But Alvin Kamara is testing the groin injury, seeing what's up with that. He's dealing with that. They might decide, hey, you can take a day off. You can take the week off, not come out, and we'll roll with Kendre Miller. They might decide to do so. We do not know how extensive this is. He's considered day-to-day. For all we know, he's going to be playing this week or might have a reduction of workload. We do not know at this point in the schedule, at this point in the week. However, when we look at Alvin Kamara and we look at the Saints, it's not like they're fighting for a Super Bowl berth. It's not like they're fighting for the playoffs. So they may allow him to set this one out when we're looking at the groin injury. And that brings in Kendre Miller. 19 carries in his last 2 games. Last week, 5.11 yards per carry against the Washington Commanders. And he was okay. He was okay. And he's a very explosive running back prospect with some size to him that could really hold it down. We just haven't got the opportunity to see what he could do on the field because he's been injured throughout his entire career pretty much. Going back to what he did at TCU, pretty much a one-year dandy in 2022. 1,300 yards, almost 1,400 yards, 17 touchdowns. 470 missed tackles, 3.64 yards after contact per attempt. But he blew up that season. That allowed him to get drafted in the 3rd round. And a very solid production standpoint. As you can see, he blew up the Big 12. Just blew it up against Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas State, Oklahoma State. Multiple 100-yard games. And just going off. 3 touchdowns against Texas Tech. We get drafted in the 3rd round. And 5'11", 215 back then. And we got some size. We got some wiggle. We got some speed. He's been banged up. He's been injured throughout his entire career. Hamstring issues, ankle issues, shoulder issues, more hamstring issues. We have not seen him healthy on the field. We just haven't. It's been a slow start to his career. Nobody can say he's bad or good. Nobody can really say that because he hasn't been on the field long enough. He has been hurt to the point his coaches very frustrated with him in the offseason. That's very understandable. Look at all the games he's missing. This is only his 2nd season of his career. He's just missing all sorts of games here. Alvin Kamara, 950 rushing yards on the season, 4.2 yards per carry. He could be in. He could be in. But if Kendre's in, you got a running back here who's averaging 4.6 yards per carry. He's very explosive. And this team wants to see how good he is on the field. So if they got to make any choices or decisions with personnel in the offseason, they know how much to spend and if they need to at all. Because we got a deep running back class in the NFL draft, and we're going to have free agency, and you're going to need a 1B back or backup back to Alvin Kamara. Kendre Miller's been hurt this whole time. They don't even know what they have in him. And Jamal Williams is another running back on this offense to pay attention to, but he's not getting many touches. He's been injured often this season as well. That being said, it looks like they're going to fuel Kendre Miller because he's been getting to work. 19 carries in his last 2 games. Kendre Miller, 2 RB, 2 weeks on his career, which is very outstanding considering how many games he's played in, how banged up he's been, and him just getting very little workload. And that one game against Atlanta, he caught that deep pass down the sideline. He can be used in the passing game a little bit. He's very explosive in the open field. Good balance, good vision, a very good running back prospect. And you're seeing him get a little bit of work in the passing game. And that's considering Alvin Kamara's taken all the work. But we ran 14 routes last week, 6 and 8 in week 7 and 14. we're getting work in the passing game. Not a lot because Alvin Kamara gets all of it. And yards after contact per attempt, 3.7, 4.7, 4.3, 2.8 last week. So we're very solid. We're very efficient with the ball in our hands. Not getting many snaps, 26 at the most, usually around like that 15 range in snaps. That being said, he's getting work in the passing game. He's getting those opportunities, which is great in fantasy football. And you're looking at the schedule here, it's very solid. Packers, Raiders, Bucks, all middle of the road when it comes to allowing fantasy points to running backs. Good opportunities. It's not top tier, but it's good enough to get the job done. It's good enough to give you a chance in fantasy football. All of them are allowing 20 points or more per game to running backs, and that's a good thing to look at when you're looking at a guy like Kendre Miller, who might, it's not guaranteed that he would get anointed the starting job, but we got to speculate now. People are picking him up right now. That being said, we're looking at him. Packers, Raiders, Bucks, all okay matchups. I'll say okay, not the greatest, but okay. Middle of the road matchups. We're still waiting on news for Alvin Kamara. Kendre Miller looks like the next man up. Jordan Mims got some opportunity this year. Jamal Williams is getting a little bit of opportunity, but not enough to steal from Kendre Miller. But he might get more if Alvin Kamara is out. This backfield is something to watch going forward. You don't need him because he's a stash play, and he's not guaranteed. And Alvin Kamara could be back, so you do not know for sure. So you may not want to make that waiver claim. And I understand on that one. I totally understand. But you want to hoard him. You need the touches. You don't want that running back needy team in the fantasy playoffs to get him and he goes off. You see the upside, and that could be grandiose. He has league-winning upside. That league-winning upside could cash in for you. Kendre Miller is a running back to pay attention to when you look at him. And if Alvin Kamara is out for this week, next week, or something like that through the fantasy playoffs, and you're looking at the upside of Kendre Miller, this is a running back prospect here that could be that league-winning player that gets you over the hump. Another thing, strategy-wise, when I look at the wide receivers on the back end of my bench, and I got one I know I'm absolutely not going to use, or I have trouble putting them in my lineup, I might drop that player for a Kendre Miller type running back anyways. That way I have that stash, and that way nobody else can pick him up. On top of that, if I have an extra tight end, an extra quarterback, and it's a 1 QB league, just throwing things out there. If I got fringe players that I'm not certain of, you may want to do that just in case. Just in case. On top of that, even if you're not going to use them, you don't want anybody using them against you just in case he pops off. That's the strategy around him. And that's why you do not have to pick him up because it's not certain. It's not 100%. You might be stacked at running back. You can't do that. And that makes sense. But you may want to prevent anybody else getting him or Jerome Ford this week because those guys look like they're going to be stepping into more touches going forward. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. Thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.